What is going on, all you Pokemon collecting maniacs out there? This is Ryan, the PikiPikaPapa, and I have been so excited to get this video out to you guys. I know I say that at the beginning of most of my videos, but I just genuinely love making content for you all. I love doing the data side of things. I hope that you watch this and it makes, makes those wheels turn in those big, beautiful brains of you guys's, and it gives you some ideas and it gives you some thoughts. And if nothing else, I hope it's a little bit different content than what you're used to seeing, because that's the name of the game here. You know, I always talk about, hey, we got to play chess when other people are playing checkers, and that means that we got to look at things a little bit differently. This is very much a data approach, and what happened was I was doing some research into a few other things. So you know that I've started this spreadsheet where I track booster box prices every single month. Hey, February's almost behind us, and that is going to give us 14 data points in our data set versus TCG Player, which only goes back a year. So we'll have 14 monthly data points versus TCG Player, where it only has 12. And that's what I've been talking about since day one of this channel, is building this data warehouse so we can start making, future predictions. Well, I wouldn't call it predictions, but what we like to do is we like to use previous results to give us some indication of what might happen in the future. And I was gathering this data and I started down a rabbit hole, and that was how I figured out, hey, Sun and Moon single prices have been on fire as of late, and I think it's flying under the radar just a little bit. So I wanted to do a video on it. I wanted to bring it to everybody's attention. I did a ton of research, and I'm really, really thrilled with the way it all turned out. With that being said, if you guys like this content, hey, we're marching towards 500 subscribers. I'm going to give away a free Crown Zenith ETB once we get there, so we would love to have you as a member of this channel. I've got a great group of subs. We're having a ton of fun, and we look at things a little differently. So if you like what you see, give us a thumbs up, drop a comment down below. I'd love to meet you, and hit that subscribe button, as we'd love to have you as a member of this channel. So with that out of the way, I thought it important just to quickly summarize how we got here, right? So I looked at Sword and Shield booster box prices a couple of videos ago, and it was a look back. And we looked back and we said, okay, over the last 2 months, how has Sword and Shield performed? And we saw the booster box prices as a whole were up 14.77%. We saw that the top 20 cards, so the average of the top 20 cards in every set, was down 2.7%. Not a huge surprise. We expected that. And then if you've been watching this channel, you know that I use an average of the top 20 versus booster box price. It gives me a ratio, and I use that as an indication of, hey, there might be a buying opportunity here, or hey, the box is a little hot, or the cards are a little cold. There's a lot into that. There's a ton of videos I've done, so I'm not going to dive into that. But we saw that number constrict in the Sword and Shield era, which again, we expected. It's a newer set. Singles prices are coming down. Booster box prices are going up, which is going to cause that ratio to come down. But then I started looking at Sun and Moon, and I was like, man, booster boxes, as a whole, they're doing okay. They're not great. They're up 2% over a couple months, which isn't anything to shake a fist at. But their card prices were on fire. Overall, this is for all of Sun and Moon, all of their sets. The top 20 cards were up almost 5% over a span of 2 months. And I was like, oh my God, I got to dig into this. And that led to the average top 20 card versus booster box price, since the top 20 cards are outpacing the booster boxes. That led this ratio to go up, which isn't something I typically see. So I did a whole video on the booster boxes and how there might be some buying opportunities there. And I alluded to the fact that the singles cards were so crazy, I wanted to do a whole video on it. And that was what spun us up. And that's where we are today. So this next one looks at all of the sets, okay? So 4, 8, 12 different sets. This doesn't include specialty sets. This is just the ones with booster boxes that came out in the Sun and Moon era. In the red is what the average top 20 price has changed over the last couple months, okay? And in green is the booster box pricing. Again, this is the same format I use for all of my videos. I use purple when I'm referring to that average to booster box ratio, but we're going to start using the same colors. That way we can quickly visually identify the things that we're talking about. And again, I'm hoping you guys stick with me for a while, so this will make it easier for us to talk about things over the long run. So you're going to see, hey, booster box prices over the last couple months have really been all over the place. I tier things out, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and this isn't based on, this is really based off of what I think is an opportunity, what the math is telling me might be a buying opportunity. So you might see Team Up in the low end of tier 2 and go, you're crazy, Team Up is a great set, like that should definitely be a tier 1. But Team Up is also over $1,000 a box right now. So the buying opportunity might not be there versus, say, a Cosmic Eclipse or a Unified Mind, which have just been on absolute crazy fire here as of late. So with that being said, let's look at tier 1. Ultra Prism, the average of the top 20 cards was up 3.8%. Burning Shadows, not so much. Burning Shadows is one I've talked about. That has that one crazy Charizard Rainbow Chase card that's at $420 now. And the second place card is at 48. So only 10% of the top chase cards. So the Burning Shadows number is one that I have a little bit of an asterisk next to, but that's why we don't just blindly follow data, right? We also have to use our brains and think about things a little bit. So Burning Shadows might not be a tier 1 set, but the math tells us it is. And booster box price reflects that because it came down 6.5% versus the average top 20 went up about 2%. Cosmic Eclipse and Unified Minds is just where you see the single cards going nuts. Cosmic Eclipse, average single price for the top 20 has been up 10%. Unified Minds almost 8%. Lost Thunder was one where it came down a little bit. I think that was the only set where it came down. And I mean, 0.2%, I would call that flat. But everything else, Unbroken Bonds, Team Up, Forbidden Light, all of those you see the average 20 are up, which is absolutely crazy. I think that just goes to show, hey, Sword and Shield is starting to sunset. Scarlet and Violet is on the horizon. People are looking at Sword and Shield. I don't think a lot of people are looking at Sun and Moon, but there's some out there who are saying, you know, I'm going to get in on this Sun and Moon before it really starts to heat up, because now it's not going to be the second oldest set, it's going to be the third oldest set. So really cool stuff to think about. But now, let's get into the cards, right? I promised I was going to share with you the top 10 movers over the last couple months from Sun and Moon. Now, there are some of you out there, and I don't blame you, who get a lot of joy when I butcher the names of some of these Pokemon. And despite my best effort, I am going to do the exact same thing in this video. So I appreciate all jeers, all cheers. You can drop it down below. I have thick skin, so I'm all good with it, but it is going to be a blast. So bear with me. I promise I'm trying my hardest. All right. And I preloaded that because there's no way on God's green earth I'm going to get this right. So the Nagandel and Guzzlord, like this GX card right here, the thing that I liked about it is it wasn't even in the top 10 or the top 15 most valuable cards in Cosmic Eclipse. Now, we're going to summarize this at the end, and you'll see that this is an exception to the rule here in this top 10 list. But it's the 16th most valuable card in Cosmic Eclipse. It was up just shy of 19% over the last couple months. The thing that I like about this one is it's real steady Eddie. Like you'll see in November of last year, it ticked up a little bit. It tried to come down, and then all of a sudden the market's like, and it just caught fire, and it started going up and to the right. It's all the way up to, you know, $37 right now. It started off probably about $26.50. So over the last 3 months, it's gained $10, which is a huge percentage gain overall. And, you know, the thing I like about this is I've noticed a theme. These cards that look a little edgy, this looks a little edgy, it looks a little dark, those cards tend to do really well in the Pokemon market. And it's something to keep in mind when we're looking at future sets that are coming out. So awesome to see this card up and to the right. Hey, listen, we all know Sylveon is a huge name. So anytime Sylveon's partnered with a great card, it is going to do really well. This one is the second most valuable in Unbroken Bonds. Look at that. It's all the way up to almost $115. It's up 19.35%. It has been on an absolute rocket ship up and to the right as of late. There is no sign of this thing slowing down. If anything, you look over the last couple weeks, that growth curve has actually accelerated. You're going to see a bunch of GX, a bunch of tag team cards on here. Obviously, Sun and Moon, that was a big theme for them. But this card has been absolutely amazing. I think it is a beautiful card, and I don't foresee it slowing down anytime soon unless we all start buying them up and holding on to them, and then there's none in the market. I'm not saying we're going to do that, but we shall see. So the very next card here, Slowpoke and Psyduck. Like, I just absolutely love this card. You see at the very bottom, I've said best art on this list. I love everything about it. I love everything Psyduck's in. Slowpoke's cool, but Psyduck's my dog. And I think this is just a really cool card. So this is the 5th most valuable one in all of Unified Minds. And you'll see that it started off kind of slow, and then a couple weeks ago, it just absolutely caught fire. And boom, up to the right. It looks like it's tailing off a little bit. This data takes a little bit of time to mature, so even though it looks like it's flattening off, we'll see in a couple weeks if it continues that upward into the right trajectory. But at 19.41% gain over the last couple months, it is just absolutely crushing it. I like this set because I love the yellow, and I think the blue and the yellow looks really good. So I just love everything about this card, and yes, I put a smiley face at the bottom. So love this card. Think it's got some more room to grow. Definitely one I'll be adding to my personal collection. You know, it's at $57, so not crazy expensive, but, you know, still something that you're not going to go out and buy 10 of either. So the Gladion right here, full art trainer. Full art trainers from Crimson Invasion have done very well. So remember, these are all 12 sets from Sun and Moon. Crimson Invasion has 2 trainers that are on this list. So this one right here, it's up 19.68%. It's the 5th most valuable card in Crimson Invasion. Strong trainer growth over the last couple months for it. Again, another card that I said, you know, it looks a little dark, it looks a little edgy. I love it. The difference in this graph compared to the other ones, right? Like, we're going to see a whole bunch that are just kind of steady Eddie up and to the right, a little bit of a rocket ship pattern. This one was flat, and then all of a sudden it was like lights went off in the collectors' heads. We're going to get all in on this. You see a couple weeks ago it tried to flatten out. no, caught fire again and just took off into the right. So this is one where when we looked at all the other ones, remember we saw all these up and to the right trajectories. Maybe this is the beginning of the growth for this one. Like, you want to make sure. Listen, if you buy something at the height, you don't want to buy something at its all-time high, but you never know when the all-time high is. So you don't want to not buy something because you're afraid it's at the all-time high. But this certainly is a good indication that if this follows suit as the way the other ones have, maybe it's got some room to grow. It's only at $10.50. To me, this is certainly an approachable card where I would say, hey, I think I'm going to buy a couple of them, because what is it going to go up? Maybe another 10%? You know, there's not a lot of risk to me, but I think there's a lot of upside as well. So another cool, edgy card. I absolutely love it. Interesting to see the pattern that it has here, and it's not typical of the ones that we're going to see here in the rest of the sets. This was another one where I couldn't put that it was my favorite art because I'd already used that, but I just said this is a cool card. Like, this red and blue trainer card is absolutely crazy. I love this kind of stair-step pattern that you see in the price history. So to me that says, hey, every time it started to flatten out, there was enough interest in it, people started piling in and buying it again, that it went up. So that just tells me that anytime it's been trying to slow down, collectors pile back in, collectors start buying it again, up almost 20%. It's the 8th most valuable in Cosmic Eclipse. I like it when something's not in the top 3. It lets me know that, hey, there are already a precedent for cards to be much more valuable in this set. This one could continue its run, but it has been on a absolute tear. You see, except in, you know, end of November, early December is the only time we see any kind of flattening out. This thing has just bucked the trend every single time. That stair-step pattern, I absolutely love it. All the way up to $64 right now. I think this is a really cool card. Another one I'm gonna add to my collection someday. Man, you know, this list that I'm gonna have in my collection someday just gets longer and longer. So I don't know, either PikiPikaPapa or PikiPikaMama need to get a second, third, fourth job. So we shall see, but cool card. This is another one where I was like, this is just epic, right? You got Mega Sableye and Tyranitar. Sableye's just sitting there, just freaking crushing gems, popping them in his mouth. Tyranitar's in the background, raising the roof. Like, such a cool card. I get so pumped up when I see awesome artwork like this. This is the 3rd most valuable in Unified Minds. This is the one where it's flattened out. Okay, so all of these have had different, slightly different growth patterns to it. On a rocket ship, now it's starting to flatten out. But I mean, when it was hot, it was absolutely hot. It's all the way up to $78. Again, it's already the 3rd most valuable in Unified Minds. Is it going to catch fire again? Is it going to start doing that stair-step routine that we've seen some of these previous other cards doing? If you think so, it's a great time to get in if you think that it's going to continue to take off. But if you think it's reached max potential, then, you know, it might be time to sit and wait on it. But either way, very, very cool card, very, very cool art. I think this one is an absolute rock star. And let's get into the next one. So this Zekrom card right here, you know, it's the 9th most valuable in Cosmic Eclipse. It went up 23.35%. This is another one where it's really steady. The steady growth is what I like, because when you see these big ups and then flat, and then big ups and then flat. And I'm not referring to like the stair step that we saw where these little ups and downs, but I'm talking about big ups, big flats over weeks and weeks of period of time. That tells me that, hey, there were maybe some big sales and then there weren't any for a while. You want cards that have high velocity. If you watch my Investing and Collecting channel, I'm always talking about if I buy cards and I get them graded with the intent of flipping them, I always look at how many cards are exchanging transactions over the last 45 days, because I want to make sure there's a market for it. I want to make sure there's a lot of velocity, because the last thing I want to do is spend $100 on cards, spend $100 getting them graded, and then I can't turn around and sell them on the secondary market. So when I see a graph like this, it lets me know, hey, there's a lot of velocity, there's a lot of excitement in this card. You know, I know that these are 2 big name Pokemons, and I love the fact that there's the trainer right there. I just think it's an awesome, awesome card. And I think it's going to continue to grow. I really do. So, Greninja. Love this Greninja card. So, PikiPikaMama would hate it because this is definitely a frog, and it stands out like a frog more than anything else, and she hates frogs, so no Greninja cards for her. But this is the 3rd most valuable in Forbidden Light. This is the pattern that would concern me, and rightfully so, right? I call it out at the bottom. This is our first irregular growth pattern. When I see these tables, like a table, then a drop, then a table, then an up, then a table, then an up, for me, it's just too volatile. It's probably not exchanging hands enough. I like to see a little bit of a stair step or a steady eddy line. I think if I say steady eddy one more time in this video, you guys are going to virtually punch me in the face, which you should. But this is not the type of pattern, despite the great growth that it's seen. I wouldn't be jumping in on this right now. I just look for things to be a little more consistent. Not saying it's not a great card. It is a great card. Just trying to give you guys insight into the way PikiPikaPapa, my brain works, and when I'm looking at investings. And, you know, it's a big decision whenever you decide to pull the trigger on anytime. Anytime you decide to spend your money, it's a big decision. So these are things that I look for. These are things that give me the pause button. But we'll see how it pans out. It certainly has shown that that $42 mark, it likes to hang right around there. So you see that even in November it was at 42, and this really only has the growth because it had dropped low and then it just sprung back up. So it's on the list. Again, you can't cherry pick data, but not my favorite card on the list. Next one, right over here. Lucamine. Okay, let me tell you something. This card is on absolute fire, up almost 35%. I have been doing a ton of, as you can imagine, I've been doing a ton of research into all of these singles. I have noticed this pattern that a girl trainer plus full art equals success. Most of these full art female trainer cards do very, very well. I think it's up to debate as to why that is, but I am going to be doing a video on that pattern that I've seen relatively soon because there's enough there and I've started to build enough information that I think it can be a tool in our tool belt moving forward. Again, we talked about the way certain cards look. We're going to look for certain patterns. Like, this is what I'm talking about. This is the way that we can really accelerate, our growth potential here in the Pokemon space. Even if they're not our favorite cards, there's nothing wrong with buying a card because you think that it has stored value, and then you can realize the value at a later date and maybe shift those funds into something that gets you a little more exciting. It's a fun game to play. It's a great lesson. It's a great life lesson, when you talk about investing and holding and selling and buying and all that good stuff. But anyways, I think there's a pattern there. We're going to do a whole video on it. This card is absolutely awesome. $40. I think it's very approachable when I compare this to a lot of the other full art girl trainer cards. This is, I wouldn't say undervalued, but I'd say it's rightly valued. So I think it has more room to grow. Again, another Crimson Invasion trainer card that's doing very, very well. And then the final card right here, Greninja and Zoroark, just fifth most valuable in unbroken bonds, up 34.6%. I mean, it started off really good, but then you'll see it just took off there at the very end. For whatever reason, all of a sudden, everybody started piling in on it. You see the smooth line, so you know there's a lot of velocity. You know it's changing hands a lot. Then you see it just take off, and now the leveling off means it is good. It's steady. People are still buying it at $59. Is it going to continue up and to the right? Who knows? But we have seen a ton of cards thus far that go through that stair-step table mentality. So it'll be really interesting to see the way this plays out in the future. And again, just another, a little bit of a dark art card, but certainly very, very cool. Man, Greninja's awesome. Just cool. There's so much cool stuff in this space. So, all right, my final thoughts here. So this was a fun video. I did a ton of data dives on this. I have learned a lot, and this is just going to give me even more work to do in the future. Cool call out. There were 3 Cosmic Eclipse on the list. You guys know for the last 3 or 4 months, I've been very bullish on Cosmic Eclipse. The data supports it. Obviously, the singles are supporting it. I think that there's going to be a lot of stored value in those booster boxes. So I know they're really pricey. I'm not suggesting you go out and buy them, but I'm certainly saying that it's something to keep an eye on. Unbroken Bonds, Unified Mind, Crimson Invasion, all 3 of those have 2 on the list. Forbidden Light got 1 on there. I thought it was really interesting that Team Up didn't have anybody on the list, despite the fact that the booster box is going off like a rocket ship. Last I saw it was, well over $1,000, and they didn't have anybody on the singles list that's growing. Don't know what that means. We're still building our data warehouse, but I certainly thought that was an interesting takeaway, enough for me to call out here on this final thought slide. 7 of the 10 cards on this list were in the top 5 most valuable. So when we're looking in the future, when we're trying to make decisions on, hey, where do I think I have the most upside, I thought it was interesting that 7 of the 10 cards that had the highest growth were already in the top 5 most valuable cards in the set. So maybe that's where we're going to be able to find growth in the future. We'll have to wait and see. Again, I looked at, there's 12 sets, 20 cards per set, so that's 240 different cards that we looked at, and 7 of the 10 biggest growers were in the top 5. Super interesting data point. Definitely tool in the tool belt. And again, 7 of the 10 were what I would describe as steady up and to the right. Not a whole lot of jumps, not a whole lot of plateaus and valleys, but we're really just slow and steady. And I bring that out because a lot of times people are reluctant to buy a card because they think, oh my God, it's too expensive. And I have a real life example. I didn't think I'd add this, but there was a stock that I always wanted to buy. It was called Nextra Energy, right? Like I live in Florida. They own FP&L. They're big on alternative energies. So I think that they have a big future, bright future ahead of them. And I kept telling myself, it's too expensive, it's too expensive, it's too expensive. Well, I have never bought a share of that. And it got so expensive that they did a stock split and then the price went back up. And I'm saying that I missed out on a great opportunity that I identified many, many years ago because I thought it was too expensive at the time, where if I had actually made the investment, I would have made a ton of money. And ifs and buts and candies are nuts, what a wonderful life we could live. And the rear view mirror, hindsight's always 20/20. I get that. All I'm saying is it was a lesson that I learned early on in my collecting and investing career. And don't ever be afraid to pull the trigger on something that you truly believe in because you might think that it's too expensive. At the end of the day, if you love the card and if you believe that there's upside in it, don't be afraid, because if you do that, you know, you'll miss out on a lot of great opportunities. And again, I just got to call it out. Super cool cards. Like, how amazing is it that we get to do YouTube videos, we get to spend time together, we get to talk about these amazing cards of these amazing animals and these Pokemon and the trainers, and this is just such a cool hobby. I'm just so fortunate and so blessed to be here and to spend time with you guys. I hope you enjoyed this. I think I'm going to do more stuff like this because I do think that this just gives us another lens into potential investing opportunities, and I think more patterns will come up of it. So I hope you enjoyed it. Drop some comments down below. If you made it this far and you're not a subscriber yet, hit that subscribe button. We're trying to get this as big as we can. You guys have an epic one, and I'll talk to you later. Thanks, everybody. Bye.